I do have our guest on the other line. So let me connect him. We have Dr. William Keith Campbell. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing good. Good to have you on. Do you want us to how do you want us to address you? You just want to be, is it Keith or William or Dr. Campbell?
Keith is fine. Keith, Dr. Campbell, whatever you want.
Good enough. We'll go with Keith.
Sure.
Hello, Keith.
How you doing?
All right.
What's up, Keith?
Not much.
We're trying to stop a nuclear holocaust.
Yeah,
just another day.
Jeff was just going off on a little rant.
Just another day.
What was the rant about?
About the war that Washington is trying to get us involved with Russia.
Oh, they keep trying.
We're hurting them. Well, they don't have a choice. They're going to have to go to war. That's the point of it. That's what we're pushing them to do. Just like we did with Japan in World War II, except we're putting a hell of a lot more pressure on Russia than we did with Japan.
For the sake of my career, I'm going to stay out of this argument. It's on tape, but I'm happy to have it any other time.
Yeah,
I've recorded.
I've actually just been sitting here listening to him rant. I haven't even said a word. So.
Well,
yeah, it's real interesting.
Apparently, this needs to be said or something, and we're going to have to get it out there, I guess.
You're going to save the rest important stuff there. Save the rest of it for later on.
Yeah.
You can go off. We'll have a little segment just for you, Jeff.
Yeah, we'll have to put it out together, sure.
So anyway, moving on. Got Dr. W. Keith Campbell. So before we get too deep on the topic, of course, we're going to be talking about narcissism tonight. I'm actually curious, what got you on the subject of it? Like, how did this come about? How you just started studying this little narcissism epidemic that we got going on here?
Well, it's back in grad school. I mean, I was always interested in how people, sort of constructed themselves and presented themselves, and everybody does it to some extent. But with narcissism, people are narcissistic. They do it to such a extreme and comical degree that you can really see how the self works and how it regulates, how people are able to feel good about themselves. I think that's sort of why I got into it in part. Probably some other reasons as well. I mean, if I were smarter, I would have studied selflessness, but I just couldn't figure out how to do that. So I've kind of gone to the opposite. But and then with culture, I just shared an office with somebody who studied generational change and cultural change, and I studied narcissism, and we just started working together, trying to figure these things out. And then, of course, the world went to hell. So that, it made it more interesting.
Right.
So where do you find the biggest narcissists? What field?
They haven't looked at every one. I mean, there's the obvious hot spots, though, or politics.
Politicians,
and in entertainment industry, especially, one study really looked at it, and the highest levels were reality television stars, which I don't think was really surprising to people, but that would be another group. So it's areas where people have to, show off a lot, draw attention to themselves a lot, have to be really confident, and get a lot of attention. And those areas are going to attract narcissistic people. It's not that everybody in Hollywood is narcissistic or everybody in Washington. I mean, a lot of people go there for a lot of really good reasons, but it's a big draw for narcissism. I mean, even the pulpit. You look at some religious activity, and that can be a draw for narcissism. Or physicians. I mean, there's a lot of professors, you know. Any place you can get you can get attention, positive attention, and show status. People who are narcissistic are going to be drawn to that.
So being part of the younger generation myself, I see a lot of, people engaged in drug activity and having kids at an early age, and it seems like, there's a lot of narcissists in the younger generation.
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, there's a few things. I mean, one which I think is the more positive is a lot of these really negative social trends, like, well, kids out of wedlock keeps going up and up, but drug use is sort of, it's not higher now than it was in the past. People keep switching. People keep switching drugs, and now the students Adderall to study. I mean, it's just different. So there's just sort of those things switch. There's a lot less crime now with young people than there were in the early 90s when crime was really bad. So there's some positive things. But narcissism is on the rise. I think everywhere you see it. Most of our research is on college students or high school students, and you see it going up over time. I think it's probably going to keep going. So my daughters are going to be, their generation will be worse than yours. But that's sort of an open question.
Right, so it wouldn't be fair a question I was going to ask, if it would be fair to diagnose kids with narcissism.
I really don't. I don't like doing it because,
right,
you're 6 years old, you're running around getting attention. Everybody's like, well,
exactly.
That's cute. I mean that's. So I don't think it's really good until somebody's old enough to know better.
Yeah, kind of like ADHD or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also there's an age thing. When you're 18 years old. I mean, when I was 18, that was the smartest I ever was. I thought I knew everything. I was a legend. It was awesome. And the rest of my life, every year I kind of go, well, I'm less attractive, I'm less successful, and I know a little less. So you sort of peak at an earlier age. And as you get older, you sort of, reality kicks you in the teeth enough, and you get humbled a little bit. So
right.
There's also a developmental trend where narcissism should peak, 18-20s.
So you're saying that narcissism is kind of like a natural thing that maybe we all have, except some have different levels than others? Yeah,
it's we find this with a lot of personality, a lot of even clinical problems. These things go on spectrums or on continua or whatever the term you want to use. With autism, people are used to thinking of a spectrum now, and narcissism is the same. I mean, most people have some degree of it. They like it. Attention's good. It's fun to be complimented. It's fun to hang out with cool people. When it gets more extreme, your desire for attention kind of interferes with your relationships. You don't want to be friends with people because they don't make you look good. You've been friends with them your whole life, and it can mess up things.
Right.
And then if it gets really extreme, it can be diagnosed as a disorder. So
okay.
There's narcissistic personality disorder, which is sort of the extreme form of narcissism, where it's where you're narcissistic. It's all the time, and it starts to really interfere with your life. Usually your relationships fall apart because no one likes somebody who's totally self-absorbed. And at work, you get in trouble because you start making a lot of mistakes. You're overconfident. You don't listen to feedback. You kind of be aggressive when people tell you negative stuff, and it starts to damage you, and then it can become a disorder.
Right. Okay. So what you're saying is there's a difference between narcissism as a personality trait as opposed to as a disorder.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just like saying, man, I'm depressed versus I have major depressive disorder.
Right.
I mean, they're two different things, but they're on a continuum. They're similar, but just when it gets really bad, it's a disorder. So people says I'm depressed. Yeah, go on.
Right. So when people really have it, really bad, do they actually notice it, or is it just something that they go through life not even noticing?
Are they psychopaths?
Well, narcissism is like a cousin to psychopathy.
Okay.
That they're very related. Sometimes with psychopaths you get more impulsivity, meaning they just you do stupid things for short-term gains, which you don't see as much with narcissism. But they're very similar. People who are narcissistic generally recognize it to some extent. Like say, yeah, I'm kind of cocky. I'm pretty confident. I got a little bit of an ego. Right. They usually don't recognize it to the full extent, though. And the real challenge is if you really think you're that good, when your life falls apart, you just blame everybody else. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to blame yourself.
Yeah.
And so getting people into treatment is really challenging.
Well, yeah, that's when it becomes unhealthy. Sure.
Yeah.
How do you?
No one wants to hear it.
Yeah. How do you treat someone like that?
Well, there's several sort of therapies that seem to work, but there are no great treatment outcome studies, which means you talk to people who do more cognitive therapies, they seem to work. Some of the more mindfulness therapies seem to work. Some of the more psychodynamic, group therapy, all these different psychotherapies. People report using them and having a positive effect on narcissism if people are willing to stay on treatment, which is the big catch.
Right.
But we have no research that said, okay, here is the go-to treatment for narcissism. Just, you can't find enough people who are narcissistic to go into treatment. They just aren't in like I said, if you want to find a bunch of people with narcissistic personality disorder, you go to Hollywood. You don't go to a mental hospital. It's just not there.
So they have to be willing participants, and I imagine that they can easily go into remission too after treatment.
Yeah, I think. I'd imagine. Yeah. I mean, one of the challenges you get with people who are narcissistic is that sometimes you see this thing where they lose their relationship. Let's say the family leaves, and they're like, "You're a self-absorbed loser, Dad. We're leaving you. You keep having affairs." And then the person who's narcissistic gets depressed. Well, if you start feeding their ego again, telling them they're great, telling their kids are idiots, they can get happy again, or sort of get full of themselves again and go on with their life. So you haven't really solved the problem, but you've solved the symptoms. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's hard to really change the whole personality part of narcissism.
So it's more like you have to affect their environment and get to the root of the problem, what made them that way to begin with.
Well, yeah, and there has to be. I think one of the keys, there's sort of this issue of awareness. You have to say, look, I'm kind of an arrogant jerk. I'm not really the center of the world. I treat people poorly. Look at the negative effect I have on people. So you have to have this awareness. You also have to teach people some sort of empathy, to sort of empathize or have compassion for other people.
Sure. Yeah. I feel like that sometimes. What you just said. Like I'm just like the jerk. Whatever.
But you have close relationships with people. It keeps you from doing a lot of stupid things, and
right.
It's and that's one of those things with narcissism. The third is, the big thing is have people take responsibility for their own bad decisions. Because you find these people who make stupid decisions over and over and over, and they're just shameless. They just don't see it, and to make people not blind for that. So you think about people in government or business making really horrid decisions over and over, and you're like, why are you still getting? Why didn't you just get promoted? There's no mechanism for feedback. But in our system now, this seems to really work. It's a very effective way to rise up the ranks in a lot of parts of our cultural system.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. They're attracted. I mean, it's like narcissistic type psychopaths are kind of like targeted and almost promoted, it seems.
Yeah, and part of it too is, the one thing with people who are narcissistic often is they're very charming. And you hear the same thing with psychopaths, sort of the glib charm, where you think of like Hannibal Lecter or somebody. but they're sort of likable and charming and confident, and that's really attractive. So these people are very good at getting hired. Like when we look at studies of leadership, they're more likely to be promoted to leader, they're more likely to be hired, and then when they get to the job, they just sort of screw it up. But then they're still able to get hired again because they come across so well.
Right.
It's great. Yeah. I mean, imagine how we run elections in this country. Think about the vetting in an election. I mean, it's just a giant popularity contest. It's just sort of rife for narcissism, something like that.
Oh yeah, and the president, he doesn't hold the most powerful position. He holds the most popular position in the world.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's this. Like I said, it's not. A lot of people go into politics to do good. It's not everybody, but it's really sort of seductive, and it works well in those environments.
It's kind of like the snake oil salesman.
Yes.
you get that. You get that in every field, though. It's not just selling products. I mean, you get preachers, like you said. It could be religious people. It could even be activists. Like we don't know.
Completely.
There could be like activist shills who are actually just like not real activists, but like actually federal agents. We don't know who that is, but it's possible.
Oh yeah, and all these places. Anytime you have a person in a position of power over people who's getting a lot of, gets a lot of adulation, is adored by people, it's any area like that is going to attract people who are narcissistic. So you have an overabundance of those people. They can be drawn to that.
So, question: what do we do to deflate the ego? If you're in a position of power and you feel like it's just coming at you and you have all this responsibility, what do you do to simmer it down and to take a step back and not get wrapped up into it all?
Right, and start believing your own press.
Right.
Yeah, that's the challenge. I think there's people will learn practices, but a lot of times, what's useful is having something other than yourself. So maybe you have somebody with you trust, somebody you've known a long time who can tell you the truth. And I think a lot of people in power don't have anybody around them telling them the truth. Somebody just says, "Look, just shut up. You're being an idiot." So you can have other people fill that role. You can have data that fills that role. You can look at hard numbers when you're making decisions. Use more sort of mathematical or algorithms to make decisions. Try to think about things more objectively if you can do that. Sort of try to mentally move yourself out of it. So there's different things you could do if you're able to do it. I think having a trusted advisor or two would be really useful. So it just doesn't all go to your head.
It's probably not healthy to let it go. I mean, I imagine like people who are that important, they go and they look at themselves in the mirror and they're like, I'm the man, that's just like that can't be healthy.
Flexing your muscles.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. That's what. I mean, the Greeks had such a great model of this, which was hubris. Just sort of this kind of just going too far and getting in trouble. And I think when you're doing that and you think I can do no wrong, that's usually when you do. It's that humility is really useful in a lot of ways. I mean, narcissism's useful in ways too. It's not all bad. I think. You're talking about Russia right now. I mean, look at Putin versus Obama. Who comes across as more of a leader?
That's obvious.
I mean,
I like that picture too. There's this picture of it. It tells a boss and a leader, and the boss is sitting behind the desk whipping the workers, and the leader's in front of the workers pulling the rope as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, so I think. If you play it right, I think it can be useful, and people can be narcissistic and want to do good as well for the country. Problem is often with these leaders, you look at somebody like John Edwards or something, who's, he had you know, he's running for VP and having relationships. You're like, what are you doing? He's willing to destroy the whole country to, you know, hook up with the camera lady. But he's like, yeah, I think I deserve it.
You know,
just
take one from the team and keep it in the pants, man.
Right. It's just like, you know, just for a little while, you know, but it's just, so I don't know if he's a bad guy or not. I mean, he might really care about America, but he didn't care enough to sort of keep his act together for 6 months.
That's careless.
Yeah. But geez.
You know, rich people, they live in their own little bubble. They do.
But come on.
You know. I mean, you got the press on you. You're supposed to be married.
Yeah, I mean, with the modern press and the way media works, if you can't hold it together for a year, you know, it's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's what that's when you see it really getting into problems. And Edwards is a good example because he blamed everybody else for it. He said, you know, my narcissism got in the way. As soon as I became senator, everybody was looking up to me, and that's what made me narcissistic.
Right.
It wasn't like he started that way. He was just a nice, normal lawyer with a 18,000 square foot mansion, and that wasn't, you know. Then it was the other people who made him bad.
Yep.
It was fascinating.
You know, like when I think narcissist, I think Obama, and I just see this like smug little look on his face, like he thinks he's cute or something. You know, and I just want to like slap him real hard in the face. I don't know why. I just really feel like I want to. Like,
well, you know, I would like to meet Obama. I wonder if he's like a nice guy.
You know, it's funny. People, you know, we did a study looking at sort of personality ratings of all the presidents, as historians made, and Obama wasn't in it, but just trying to track narcissism. And the ones that scored highest were people like, you know, like Johnson, Teddy Roosevelt, though he, you know, he's also, a lot of that was just his fearlessness,
right.
Nixon. So our guys that really stand out like that. Obama's an interesting case because, and we're planning a study on this now. I don't know him. I mean, but he has this smug quality like you described.
Yeah.
It's like work on that man. But he also
keeps a straight face. You know, he does. He keeps a straight face.
Yeah, but his personality itself doesn't, you know, compare him to a guy like Putin who's, you know, takes pictures of himself with tigers and riding around horseback.
Oh, she's awesome.
I would. I mean, that's a bright personality.
Yeah, but Obama, I get the idea if I was alone with him, he would try to sexually assault me or something. Seriously, dude. Obama scares me. Whatever, dude. I don't get that from Putin. Putin, I think like we would go hunting and drink beer.
Right. but I mean, in terms of the narcissistic profile, Putin would fit more than Obama. You know, because of the sort of the brashness and the
he flaunts it. He flaunts it a little bit more than
he
Obama.
flaunts it. But also, I'm like you. I mean, Putin seems like a guy you'd go out and shoot a bear and you know, skin it, and wear it, and drink schnapps or whatever.
I'd rather be with
hanging
out with him.
Right, because that's part. I mean, that's part of narcissism. These guys are they're charismatic, and you know, I wouldn't trust Putin very much, but it'd be fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
But what if you look at it this way? Like, I think Obama has killed more people than Putin will ever dream of.
Oh,
I'm trying to think. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I just don't know. Yeah, I guess. Because, I mean, how many wars has Russia been in compared to... I mean, Obama's only been there
just Putin, you know.
6 or 7 years.
Yeah, and
Obama, he's financing tons of wars. He's bombing 7 countries. I think he's a silent killer. He keeps a straight face, and he's a great political actor. He really is.
That's true.
Well, if you ever look at the maps of drone strikes, since he took office. There's a lot of dead kids in a lot of countries we're not having wars with.
It's got to be close.
I don't know what's going on in Chechnya. I don't know, Ukraine. I don't really know. They have a little better control of the media than we do.
It's really bad. It's really, really, really bad. The sanctions, the oil, we're rigging the oil price to crash their economy. And the rest of Europe depends on Russia for oil. So we're destroying the entire European economy just to get to Russia, just because we want Russia to join, we want them to join us is basically it all is. And Russia opposes us. Russia doesn't want anything to do with our plan, our sadistic psychopath plan. And that's what's debatable. What is our plan? A lot of people
Wait, you don't think we have a well thought out strategy in the Middle East and Central Asia?
I know we do. The question is, what is that strategy, and is it?
What is it? Can you share that with me?
Well, I'm certain. What I think they want to do is they want to. You're not going to like this. They want to kill off 90% of the world's population and enslave the rest. They want to enslave. They look at humanity as nothing more than cattle, as natural resources, and we're about to be used up and just taken out once we're used up.
Now, do you think Jeff here sounds a little narcissist? No, just kidding.
No, it's question, Michael. I think that I think the challenge is when you have a world where I have no idea what's going on, and I think about this a lot, and I'm absolutely baffled by what our policies are. Whenever there's a giant vacuum like that, people just start imputing motives. Because nothing makes sense, right? So you go, here, this makes sense. Maybe this makes sense.
You got the Georgia Guidestones, for instance. They want to, they put that out there saying they want the population of the world to be under 500 million people. Well, that's a tenth of what it is today. They would have to, 90% of the people would have to die. You got Bill Gates up on stage giving this math formula showing that you have carbon dioxide, you have the population of the planet, and then you have the natural resources. And he says one of those numbers has to get as close to zero as possible. And everybody in the crowd starts laughing, and he gets a little smirk on his face when he was clearly referring to the population. And he says that vaccines will help make that to happen. So you can take so many different instances that show that the people that are pulling the strings, these powers that be that we call them, all of them seem to despise humanity and look at us as a virus that needs to be eliminated. They just seem to have this complete hatred for humanity. It's disgusting. And you can add up all the pieces, and at that point it makes sense. It's no coincidence that we have this GMO problem, that we're getting poisoned in the water, that we're getting barium, aluminum, and strontium sprayed all over us for how many years, that you got the vaccines, that you got these bad pharmaceutical companies. Everything on television is crap. The schools are teaching us crap. You got all these different politics to keep everyone fighting and hating each other. It just goes on and on and on, all these different forms of control, and it's like we're being poisoned. The families are being broken up. The schools suck. They're teaching our kids to be idiots.
Hey Jeff, didn't I tell you that I'd let you rant after?
But you see, my point is all these things add up, and it just tells you it's not an accident, and they really are like waging war against humanity.
Well, there's a couple. I don't even know where to go with this, except that except a few things. I can put a tinfoil hat on too, but populations are dropping. And that's Right. Europe isn't reproducing. The Europeans, except for immigration, aren't. Japan is not reproducing. Russia's not reproducing. So everything's a lot of the sort of the old world is starting to turn down in population. A lot of that is because if you have healthy kids, you don't have to have 20 of them. If women have jobs, they wait to reproduce till they're older. So I think a lot of that will happen, except, Africa and or other places still are at high reproduction rates, Middle East.
That's a beautiful thing, too, because it's a natural, we're not going to overpopulate the world. We're going to naturally, like you said.
It should happen. I mean, we should get to some sort of stability. I mean, you read some of the demographers. I mean, they look at this and they're like, well, it should stabilize. It should stabilize at some time, because you get to go to Europe now. People don't want to have kids, like having too much fun. Or a lot of people don't have kids.
Well, you're just reinforcing what I'm saying, though. The population myth is unnecessary. We don't have to worry about depopulating the earth. My point is they're worried that all these 6 billion plus people are going to realize that psychopaths are running the game and we're going to rise up and take things back, and they don't want that. They want to maintain their power. And they feel, we don't need all these people on the planet. We only need so many people, to serve us, to keep things running for us, the elite.
But and we're not going to rise up. We're like watching Kardashian's butt on magazines and stuff. And why are we going to rise up?
We're not at this point, but as things get crazier, and as crazy people like myself and Chris and Michael and all these other crazy people start going out there screaming the sky is falling, and we're pointing at Washington saying they're the bad guy.
Leave us out of your crazy talk, man.
This is how it is, though. This is how it is.
But look at our country now. We have the greatest wealth disparity in this country since, I guess, probably the 1920s. I mean, it's just massive. And trust in institutions, this is research we've just published, but trust in institutions is the lowest it's ever been in our country. Trust in each other and trust in our, broader institutions. This place is a mess. No one's doing anything. It's just, all we do is fight each other.
I agree.
Yeah.
They get us to fight each other, and they're like, oh, look, it's a Kardashian. It's like bread and circuses.
And I feel like that's going to end, and we're going to come into unity, and we're no longer going to fight each other over stupid, petty stuff. I see that happening in our lifetime very soon, actually. I just see that happen. At that point, what are they going to do when we stop fighting each other and we start acknowledging what the real problems are, and then their power is threatened at that point. They won't be able to maintain their trillions of dollars and their foothold over us. And I think that's what they are concerned about. That we're coming to a pivotal point.
Of course, everybody's fighting each other. So that brings us back to the topic of narcissism.
You're real choppy, bud. You're real choppy.
You're pretty hard, chubby. So I have this thing. I want to know about this. People with big egos, you can tell they have big egos. They're just all arrogant and everything. I love watching those people fail, I like seeing those people humiliated. Do you think that's narcissist of me?
No, that's the word they use for that is schadenfreude. It's taking pleasure in others' suffering. But it's, it's like the old, was the Jimmy Cliff song, the harder they come, what is it? The stronger they come, the harder they fall, or whatever. It's got to mangle that. But it's, I think when you see these people get their comeuppance, I think it's really appealing. And our culture has this weird pattern where we build people up, and we like that, and then they get too big, and then we destroy them, and we like watching that. So we just destroy people, we build people. I think it's sort of entertaining, and it's sort of a sense of justice. And when Martha Stewart got busted, people were happy, and I think she kind of turned herself around by actually going to jail. But those kind of cases, people. I don't think it's narcissistic. I think it's just part of how we wind people up in this culture and all over the world, really.
It makes us feel better.
It kind of feels good to watch people who are big mouths fall. that's the thing. If you have a lot of power and you act like a prick, it'll come back and get you. You know, because people always look for a way to take you down. It's not a good strategy.
Did O.J. Simpson end up in jail? I forget. Like, I know he got off innocent, but didn't he end up like going back to jail or something?
Yeah, he's in jail now for I think.
Sorry.
What did he do? He threatened somebody.
Robbery.
Yeah, trying to get
robbery
stuff back and. Yeah.
What about that Zimmerman? Has he got caught yet?
Which one?
The Zimmerman dude.
I don't know.
Trayvon Martin guy.
I thought he got.
I'm waiting for him to get busted, dude. I think a lot of people are.
Yeah, I think he's just hoping people are so mad at the other ones they'll forget about him.
Yeah. That's funny.
God.
Yeah.
But
I'm not forgetting him. I'm not gonna forget that guy.
But OJ had a lot of those very narcissistic qualities too. I mean, he was a loved person, you know. But part of the narcissism, you know, you see the aggression come out when I've got my wife and she's leaving me, and he gets mad at some other guy and allegedly kills him, and that's pretty consistent with narcissism.
Yeah, probably is. If you're gonna go off and doing that, got some problems.
Yeah.
Probably a lot more than just narcissist.
Well, yeah, I mean, but he was, like I say, he's a beloved guy, charismatic, charming, and they also derailed his entire life because of that one incident, you know.
Yeah. I mean, he's got to be a psychopath though to be able to put on like a charming look and, you know, the front, and then go killing like 2 or 3 people, allegedly, as you said.
Allegedly, I'm just sticking with that because we're recorded. But
yeah,
like I said, the psychopathy and narcissism are very. I mean, part of my, you know, they're very closely related. I mean, most people who are narcissistic aren't killing people. Most people who are psychopaths aren't killing people.
Right.
But that callousness.
They're usually given badges.
Yeah.
And guns. Sorry. Yeah. Cops. So what about cops? Are there a lot of narcissists? I know there's a lot of psychopath cops.
Like
what about
cops.
Sorry.
You know, I don't have data on any of that I really, you know, I think like anything, you know, there's sort of people who want that sense of power and respect would be drawn to that. I think a lot of other people would too for positive reasons, and I think as we know, in all these police forces, they're people who get in there that shouldn't be there. It's sort of the ego gets to them, or and probably some of them just get worn down by the system. I obviously don't think it's everybody, but again, I think it could be a draw for certain people, for sure.
Why are reasons? I need a few good reasons for people out there who don't think that there's any value in humbling ourselves. What, besides health, like, are there any like really good reasons why a person should step back and say, like, maybe I'm just another person in this, you know, another cog in this wheel, and I'm just a part of humanity like everybody else. I'm not that as big of a deal as I think.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like.
Well, you know, it's funny. It's people equate sort of narcissism with success, and you don't have to be. I mean, you can sit there and say, and which is the truth, by the way. I mean, ultimately, it's kind of zero. You know, none of us really matter in any sort of profound sense. You know, even you'd be a U.S. president, people don't even remember you except when they study you for class. I mean, Martin Van Buren, you know, who's that guy? President, he's more famous than I'll ever be. So part of the humility is it's true, and part of it is ego it gets in your way a lot. I mean, you can still focus on achievement and getting stuff done, and especially doing stuff that you really love doing it. So doing it for the passion of doing it, rather than for the attention you're going to get.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And when you do stuff because you love it, because you're passionate it attracts people to you. You can get attention, but it's only a side effect. And then you're doing what you love. When you go out there to say I'm better than everybody else, so I'm going to show everybody. Like I said, nobody really cares. You're going to impress a few people. They're probably going to be losers because they're not impressed with you anyway. And it's not as enriching a way of living as doing what you're passionate about. And again, you can do great stuff.
I think what you just described is actually most people, especially the people who are just like posting selfies and all that crap, and like it's like really limited and like boring, and there's not much value being offered. That they don't seem to be passionate about anything other than what's on television. It's just I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of my thing. And the other thing is, you can be confident in one area. You can say, look, I always tell people in this society, you need to promote yourself. You're starting to, you're doing blogs, you got to promote it. You got to be outgoing. You got to do stuff like that. But if you go around and expect everybody to treat you like you're special, or you're the Queen of England or whatever, it's just going to make people dislike you. It's going to backfire on you. So if you have your narcissism, keep it limited. If you have your ego, maybe you get motivated sometimes. Like, I'm going to show everybody, I'm going to, do another 20 push-ups. I mean, maybe that's good sometimes in small doses. But if you do it all the time, it's just going to burn you out.
So have you heard of psychedelics killing egos, basically, where you go through an ego death doing psychedelics?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's one of the one of the insights that people talk about a lot, and there aren't a lot of good, solid data on it. I've talked to some of the people who've done this research, but the idea of ego death, and a lot of that, the death is sort of the death of it's not just the narcissistic ego, but just the sense of being separate, the little ego, and sort of a connection to something much bigger than you imagined.
There is a really good. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no.
There's a really good one. There's a documentary called documentary film about ibogaine. It's a hallucinogenic, and ibogaine supposedly does exactly that, and it also gets you off of any addictions like heroin, crack, or any
heroin and stuff. Yeah. I mean, I think those things, just like any mystical experience. I mean, no one's ever had a mystical experience and said, you know what, I'm freaking awesome. I'm better than everybody else. I mean, not one person has had that. I mean, the mystical experience is, I lived from this small thing of myself that I thought was the center of the universe. Turns out it's not. The universe is much faster than I am. I'm a very small piece in it. I'm connected to everybody else. It's pretty cool. Yeah. And I'm not as scared as I was. And I'm stronger, but I'm less ego-driven.
Dude, the sun's going to come up after I'm, long gone from this planet. Continue to go up. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, but we haven't done any research on narcissism and psychedelics. And I think a lot of people could go into that business very narcissistically, too, sort of a Pied Piper, kind of a Charles Manson thing. So I don't think it's immune to that, but I think there's something to that where you could have that kind of experience that would minimize narcissism.
And like you were saying with people with egos, they think they're the best. And when you do a psychedelic, it kind of shows you how insignificant you really are.
Yeah, but it's I mean, theoretically you're nothing, but it shouldn't. That sort of mystical experience isn't. I'm worthless. It's like I'm one drop in this huge ocean, but it's a really cool ocean. Yeah. And I'm glad to be part of it and experiencing it. And that should.
I could tell
the entire ocean in the drop.
You've done these drugs before, I can tell.
I'm on record here, but there's lots of research on this. It's very interesting. Lots of.
That's
I mean,
cool,
some of the stuff they're doing are fast. Some of the stuff they're doing now is fascinating.
I've done them all, man. I love it.
Well, a lot of it is the context. A lot of it's the experience, and then and again, this isn't my area, but from the people I talk to who do this, I see a lot of it's that'll draw some opening experience, but then people into practicing meditation or some other form of sort of
your description was spot on, so I was just like, well, okay.
Meditation
really does.
I'm like
help,
I'm like having I'm just like reliving my experiences from your description.
Yeah, but that's the big experience, it's not just with psychedelics. That's the mystical experience. That's the experience people talk about. Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey idea. It's the idea of therapy. It's it's a lot AA. A lot of these. It's sort of the human. It's the human journey. It's pretty cool.
I was trying to convince people earlier tonight to take some psychedelics on the Facebook. I was like trying to tell them they can get it on the internet if they want.
You know what? Why don't you tell people that take yoga? Sort of.
Oh no! Like I'm talking about.
Step into the depths.
I'm talking about this guy that's like completely closed-minded. I like the guy, but like some people, they are so naive to think that everything that is on the television is true, and there's no such thing as a conspiracy. I said, just look, dude. Get out of work for a week, get some good magic mushrooms or LSD or whatever else, and relax, take them, and then watch a few documentaries on conspiracy theories, and I think you'll see things differently. I don't know. That's just my perspective. I do think.
Well, there's research done out of Johns Hopkins 2 or 3 years ago where they did just that study and found it made people more open for 6. I think they measured them 6 months later. Changed their basic personality from a single experience.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's really healthy. I think everybody should try it once in their life.
Oh yeah, and there's some people that won't accept it. You recommend meditation to them, and they're like, no, screw that, screw yoga. So those egotistical people that just don't even want to cooperate with you, and you just want to kick their ass, but it's like shit. That's not going to accomplish nothing. What do you want to do?
Dude,
so I feel like this might sound narcissistic, but sometimes I feel like, just kidnapping them, putting them in a very colorful room, dude, and just dose the hell out of them.
Yeah,
and
dude,
just
that's
talk
what I'm
to them.
saying.
Say, everything's gonna be all right. Nothing bad is gonna happen to you.
Slip some LSD in the water,
man.
Slip the LSD in the water, like they did in that movie Men Who Stare at Goats. Just put it in everybody's water, the eggs or whatever.
That's what they did.
In the movie Men Who Stare at Goats, it was great. They put it in the eggs. All the soldiers on the base in the desert. It was hilarious.
I would sort of recommend against that as a psychologist.
Oh yeah,
you could overdo it.
I think that's
dangerous. It'd be dangerous.
And the other thing was with people is, William James, the great psychologist, talked to people about once born and twice born people. Some people sort of wake up when they're, they go through some changes.
When they go through a near-death experience.
Yeah, go through a near-death experience or a psychedelic experience, or they lose somebody or something happens and they wake up. They practice meditation, they wake up and they see things differently. Other people don't.
Well, the only reason I would say to not put it in the water supply is because you could overdose people. If you're going to do that, it has to be controlled. You'd have to make sure everybody got one drop.
Oh yeah.
That's it. Yeah. I would force them to do that though. I would just everybody on the planet. That'd be awesome.
There is something to be said for the elimination of psychedelics and state control. They seem to have gone together in an interesting way. Meaning
so what is it like?
They banned them as an addictive drug, and psychedelics aren't addictive.
No, they are definitely.
they don't operate like drugs. They're a whole different can of worms, and yeah.
But when you're on them, it's clear to see why they are illegal. You can see behind the curtain.
Yeah, but there are other ways. I mean, what about taking people? People leaving the country. I mean, a lot of people, they never even left their city, their state.
You're right.
And that's
true.
That changes perception. I mean, go to ride horseback in Mongolia for a few weeks. That changes. There's a lot of ways to get there.
It's true. I mean, but there are people who travel the world and then they finally go to some like African shaman or South American shaman, and they take some crazy hallucinogenic, and they have an amazing experience that changes their life even more.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, but anyway, I'm not arguing against you or for you. I'm just.
No, there's alternatives, dude. There's a whole lot of things people should be doing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yoga's important, like you said. Yeah.
No, I mean,
I need to do that.
Different. Yeah. But it's
like
really,
one in
this is
5?
all fascinating.
Is it like 1 in 5 people are psychopaths, or what are the numbers on those?
Hope not.
Those numbers are really hard because narcissism and psychopathy are all sort of on the spectrum you were talking about, and I think when you draw the line at somebody calling, I mean, first of all, psychopath isn't really a clinical diagnosis. I mean, if you look up the DSM-5 and there's not really a clear, this is a psychopath, this isn't. They talk more about antisocial personality disorder, and it's not 1 in 5. I mean, that you can't have a society function with 1 in 5 psychopaths.
Right. Be like more. I think it's like 1 out of 20 or something. I don't know.
I mean, that makes a lot more sense to me. That with narcissism, if you look at NPD, maybe you're talking. I mean, you're talking a handful of percent. If you use a very strict criteria, maybe 3% of the population, 1 to 3. If you want to be, hardcore about it.
That means one of us 3, either me, Chris, or Michael, is a narcissist.
No, 1%.
After you already found them.
Yeah, you're talking, 1 in, what is that, 3 in 100?
All right.
So, maybe 1 in 20. And psychopaths are, probably similar.
Yeah.
I put Jeff under the sociopath.
I was trying to make a joke. I failed. All right.
Okay, so what about I think social media must be I personally think social media, such Facebook and everything, is making is kind of making it worse.
Well, it's one of these things. Is when we first looked at this. I mean, we've looked at narcissism, a lot of social media now, and generally what you find is people who are narcissistic use it in a certain way, and they use it to get attention. They promote themselves. They have a lot more connections and more followers on Twitter, and more connections on Facebook, and we see this across social media. I mean, we found it on MySpace back in the day. So people who are narcissistic use it in a certain way, and then the question is, I mean, is it working the other way? So is the use of Facebook making people narcissistic? And we haven't really found evidence for that. It's been really mixed. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I think what it does is culturally it sort of it gets people to focus on themselves, many people. And also when you look at the people who are posting all the time on your network, you're seeing a lot of narcissism out there. So it changes how we see the world a little bit. I don't think using Facebook by itself though is necessarily bad. People can use it for good ends, for bad ends.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing. All this stuff is such a mixed bag. It's like a lot of technology. It can be used to sort of inflate the ego or to eliminate the ego. So, yeah, but I think, but when we've looked at cultural change, I mean, Facebook or social networking certainly seems part of a culture that's more narcissistic.
Agreed on that.
Yeah, a lot of people just insult for no random reason, even though they wouldn't do that in real life.
Oh, you mean the like trolling and stuff?
Yes, the internet trolls.
Epidemic.
Well,
Epidemic.
That's fascinating because they have looked at that, and you've got a couple things with that. One, you have anonymity, and people who are anonymous are just jerks. I mean, they can be just evil. And personality-wise, you see narcissism, and the other thing that really sticks out is sadism. A lot of people who are trolling and doing stuff they just like hurting people.
Yeah.
So you have your show or whatever, and people just say horribly nasty things. You're like, dude, why did you do that? It's like, because I like to. Because I like to cause pain. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's sort of rampant. A lot of what we've done in culture is, the things that celebrities and politicians used to be able to do. Now we all get to do it. We all can write comments in the New York Times. We all can, put ourselves out on TV. And the sort of the democratization of media is great in a lot of ways because it stops the central control. So it liberates people. On the other hand, it puts people into echo chambers. So I can watch only Fox, and my friend can only watch MSNBC, and we get our opinions reinforced all the time.
Right.
So so that's the downside. The upside is, I get a lot of news from strange internet sources that I find a lot more reliable than mainstream media.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So a lot of this stuff is this really interesting mixed bag. So I don't know. I wouldn't want to unwind it.
Right, and it's easier for people to sit there and have a debate like on Facebook as opposed, because like I tell people all the time they want to debate me on Facebook or whatever, and like I get sick of it, and I'm just like, hey man, why don't you call into the show? And they'll never call into the show. It's because they can sit there on Facebook. You can get into a debate. They can type in Google.com. And they get all their answers right there, so they can form a whole debate off what they're Googling, and I don't know, it bugs me, and it's we've talked about this a lot, and that's a big reason why we wanted to have you on, is because we've been wanting to talk about this whole thing for a long time, and I just happened to hear you on Coast to Coast, that show that you were on, and I was like, I was laying in bed because I listen to Coast every night when I go to bed, and you were on. I stayed up and I listened because it's on at starts at 1:00 here, and I listened to your whole interview. I'm like, I got to get this guy on. I'm like, we've been wanting to get somebody on to talk about this, and perfect. So got a hold of you. You said you'd come on, made my day. So
good. I like supporting this alternative media stuff. I think it's great getting ideas out there, different audiences, and talking about stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. New types of ideas get out there, yeah.
Right, and uncensored, so we don't really have to worry about, we can talk about whatever we want. We don't have someone saying, hey, you can't talk about that.
Yeah.
Fresh ideas, man. and well, yeah, this is going to end up on YouTube, and it will be there for the rest of eternity and history and...
Yeah, that's why I don't comment on a lot of things.
I respect that. I wish I was. I wish I had that sort of restraint.
I've got. I'm practiced a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Fortunate.
Just like self-destructive. I don't really. I'm nuts. I'm crazy.
Well, how many people have you seen destroy their lives over one Twitter post?
Right. Yeah.
That's the other side of a lot of this is, you're saying ripping people down. They're just waiting, and people just pounce on you. And
yeah, but if that ever happens to me, I know it's coming. I'm not scared of it, and I actually kind of want it. My inner troll wants it. Like it's like funny. It's like drama.
You are the perfect narcissist, aren't you?
I guess I have a little bit of inner narcissist. I'm looking at the definition here. It says,
okay,
I'll
be honest. We did this show just because we were trying to have an intervention with Jeff.
Well, what's funny though is, in a way, it's a way of you ride it, you get attention, you throw enough mud, you get people to pay attention to you. People do that.
Right.
I mean, it works. I mean, look at Hannah Montana or whatever her name is.
Oh yeah.
So
it's unfortunate.
It is.
That it kind of works. I mean, the problem is, especially if if you've got an image of somebody who's like a decent human being, or you've got a lot of corporate money, they'll pull the money, or you'll be destroyed.
Right.
But if you're trolling the whole time and you don't have corporate sponsors, big deal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at the definition. It says excessive or erotic interest in oneself, in one's physical appearance. Now, that doesn't fit.
That's, the erotic idea goes back to the very early definition of this guy, Ellis, and a couple others, but that you actually be sexually aroused looking at yourself.
Yeah, that's weird. Ew.
Yeah, and we've sort of toyed with how to study that. There's ways you could do that, but it would be.
I feel confident. I mean, I think I'm like I know I'm somewhat like I'm an attractive dude. I don't think I'm like the hottest there. Whatever. I can hold my own. Shut the fuck up, dude.
We're diagnosing Jeff tonight.
That's what it is. I'm reading this. It says synonyms. Vanity. I don't think I'm that vain. Self-love. I love myself. I don't. That doesn't mean like.
Yeah, that's one thing.
You're supposed to love yourself.
You can love yourself, but what degree does it become an ego?
Everybody has an ego. Is it a healthy?
Self-love is the worst term. I don't know where people came up with this self-love idea, but basically, if people who say I'm better than everybody else and I'm freaking awesome and I can't spend any time with anybody else or help anybody else or care about anybody else because all that's for me.
Yeah.
That's when you get into trouble.
Right.
Having self-esteem, saying I'm a person of worth. I do a pretty good job. I mean, that's not narcissism. That's self-esteem. They correlate, but they're not the same thing.
Self-admiration.
Yeah, I admire myself.
I pat myself in the back if the job's well done. If I annoy enough people, then I think I've done a good job.
Do you do that every day? You walk into work and go, "Hey, check me out."
Not that way.
Your girlfriend comes over and is like, "Guess what? My mom got cancer." And you're like, "Yeah, but did I tell you about my show?"
No.
Did you do that?
That's bad. That's I don't know what that's.
Like
that's
when you're trying to have a conversation with. Yeah, I don't know, man. I've had some conversations with Jeff where he's done that.
Yeah, you're like,
let's just talk about me.
So you have a cancerous lump. Well, I was getting this pimple, and it's going to look bad when I do my selfies.
Yeah.
I have done stuff like that before. Okay, I admit.
Yeah, then you start getting worried.
Yeah.
That's when I get worried. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that before. That can't be good. That can't be good.
Yeah, but like I said, this is a normal range. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's people do that's pretty normal. It's just it gets more extreme, it gets more destructive.
Right.
Yeah.
This is extreme selfishness. I am not selfish.
Well, anyway.
Titles.
I'm just messing with you,
special treatment. I should be in front of the line, and I deserve special treatment. Everybody should recognize me.
No. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, hell yeah, because my opinion is damn good, and I deserve to be heard. I guess that is somewhat narcissist. He's feeling it.
I feel like Jeff is like just laying on the couch right now in a little, little office.
Well, I think I valued opinion.
If you're seriously curious about it, go online, find the narcissistic personality inventory. There are a bunch of them online, and just take it. 40-item scale. You get a score.
There you go, Joe.
You know, if you're at 30, I'd sort of think about myself a little bit. It's not that hard to do, really. It's just you got simple tests. Right. They work reasonably well. It's not clinical, but it'll give you an idea of your personality.
Well, I already told you I wanted to give hallucinogens to every last person on the planet. I might as well just I might as well also like give them like a speech and like teach them a thing or two, and yeah.
But Jeff, you seem like other people value your opinion, but do you value your opinion?
I value my opinion. I think it's a valuable opinion, and I think most people, they hear idiot stuff every day, and I think I can compensate that with something that will give them a fresh new help their perspective and help open their minds and maybe convince them to find enlightenment, if you want to say.
So are you doing this for compassion or to get attention?
Compassion. That's what I'm saying. It's not for myself. I'm a scumbag. I'm a piece of nothing dirt. Look, I'm serious, because like you were saying, okay, we're here for like a split second of time. When it comes to all eternity, I believe we're gonna, our souls live forever. We're in this shell of a body for like a very quick moment of time, and while we're here, we have to do the best we can with the time that we have, and then we go and we're forgotten, we're lost.
Right. And it's like what? I mean, I do a lot of studying, and so when I get in debates, some people might tell me, well, you got an ego, and it's like, what's that Albert Einstein quote? More the knowledge, less of the ego. Less of the knowledge, more the ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
More knowledge equals less ego.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, here's the issue. So you do debates. If you're overconfident, you don't prepare because you're so freaking awesome.
Right.
And then you start losing, and then you blame everybody else. That would be a problem.
Yeah. Right.
But if you have an accurate idea of how good you are, that's just normal. That's within range. If you're overinflating a little bit, that's actually normal. Most people inflate. You ask people how attractive they are, they always add a point. I can ask a group of 40 people to rate themselves on a 10-point scale, and compared to everybody else in that group, and the average is not going to be in the middle. It's not going to be 5. It's going to be 7. It just is. I mean, that's just reality. I mean, people distort, and they usually distort up. It's just when it gets, like I said, it gets extreme, and start taking yourself too seriously. You stop learning because you already know everything.
Right. That makes sense.
I mean, that's the thing. I the academic thing for a living, and it's like the fun part is that when you don't know anything, that's what makes it fun.
Oh, yeah, the more you know, the more
the less you know. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the fun part is always being on the edge of not knowing. I mean, you want to be right on the edge, like, God, that's cool. I have no idea. That's the fun part. It's not like I know everything. I mean, come on.
No, well, that's how you learn. If you don't know something, you find out you don't know, then you go and you learn, and
always the best. Yeah. Every day you got.
That's why we live happy lives.
But having that sort of that motive to master stuff, to explore, to be open, I mean, that sort of motivation, I think, really works if you want to have a creative interest in life. And narcissism works if you want a lot of attention, until it backfires.
Makes sense to me. All right, so what if Keith, if you had to make a list of the most narcissistic, well-known people, who would your top 5 be?
I'm not answering that.
Come on.
I mean, what? No,
you wouldn't be like Biden's a narcissist?
Because there's going to be some personal people, like some people you personally know.
Most well-known. No, I don't mean well-known to you, as like well-known to everybody.
Yeah. Sort of the celebrity character.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean personally.
Yeah, no, you can't do that.
No way.
No, I mean, I don't. I don't like labeling people that I don't like real people and labeling them. I'm sorry to say on air or anything, but I'm trying to think of like a character. I mean, like a good,
like someone that stands out.
I mean, to me, like, you know, who's that Iron Man guy in that movie? Just saw one of those with my kids. Yeah, he plays a real grandiose narcissist in those movies who's smart enough to get away with it. I mean, that's kind of an example.
Yeah, total.
Politically, God, there's just so many that.
Yeah, politically you're allowed to.
What about Bill Maher? Bill Maher. He seems to me is one of the most narcissistic people that.
He's got to be used to be calling people.
Yeah, you know, it's funny that the thing is, it's a lot of those guys. You know, it's kind of their job to be a blowhard. That's why I was worried about it because
True.
I've talked to people. You know, I've talked to some people in radio and stuff. And I've talked to them off the air, and they're like, "Gee, do I have an issue?" And I'm like, "No. Do you treat your kids like this? Do you treat your wife like this?" No. I mean, they're actually a pretty nice guy to everybody else.
Of course.
So a lot of it is, yeah. How much of it is just a show? How much? I mean, how do they treat their staff at work?
Stephen Colbert.
You know, I mean, he plays one. He plays the main. You know, he plays a crazily narcissistic character.
He's the number one. He's obviously the number one narcissist on the planet.
But the character he plays is, I mean, when he has that sort of portrait of himself and infinite regrets. I mean, it's just he plays this really classically narcissistic guy. I mean, He's great, and he's supposed to be. I think he's sort of a big takeoff on O'Reilly and a few others.
Right. Oh yeah. He's a really nice guy in real life, though. Really nice guy.
Yeah, I've never met him, but I don't know, but he's a character on TV.
Yeah.
Right. What about Russell Brand? Russell Brand.
I don't know. I mean, just
you don't know, or you don't know. Say.
I just don't. I don't know the guy well enough. I don't know what it's.
I don't know either, to be honest.
Fair enough.
I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing. I'm saying, did he play one? Yeah, kind of a womanizing, self-important guy, but it also seems like he has some humility. I mean,
yeah.
Actors and actresses kind of hard to diagnose.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's hard. Right. It's what you do is when you hear stuff behind the scenes.
Yes. Right.
And that's when you see a lot of it, and you don't hear it much because every time you hear an interview with an actor, they're like, "Yeah, I work with so and so. They're the most generous actor." It was, they just BS each other all the time. It's really hard to say. That's a cop out, I know, but
no, it makes sense though. It makes sense. It makes sense why it's hard to answer that question. I can understand that.
But sort of people in public, and then you hear stuff about people. I mean, I've heard stuff about celebrities that are just like, "Are you serious?" I mean, stuff that's just stuff that's just horrendous.
I'm gonna say something about Russell Brand real fast. I think he's a nice guy, but I also suspect he's a narcissist. He appears to be one to me. Not just in his movies where he's obviously playing a narcissist, but I mean in real life. I'm just putting it out there. He appears like he's kind of a one. Nice guy, humble as well. You can be humble and be a narcissist. And I suspect he is.
I'm gonna go with Keith's opinion on this one.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I mean,
one, like, not just with celebrities, but music performers too, like Kanye West. I bet he's narcissist.
Oh, definitely.
Well, he comes across as just over the top, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he just seems. I mean, that's the way he presents is very narcissistic.
For sure. I mean, he has a song called "I Am a God," so come on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, he presents that way. Now, I don't know. Again, I don't know with him. Maybe he's just a really, I don't know, really caring guy. I don't know him, but I don't know if that's just a stage thing, But yeah, right. He's one of those guys. When you ask people like who's narcissistic, they'll come up, and then there'll be certain athletes that always come up. There used to be guys like Ocho Cinco or some others.
Cinco, I was just going to say that.
Yeah, I don't know a lot. I don't know a lot of the athletes, but certain of them will come up.
Ocho Cinco?
Chad Johnson plays football.
Okay.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, those guys come up. I'm trying to think of politics. Like I said, it's hard to say in politics because there's so many.
And I really don't even want to think about these politicians. Imagine.
Yeah,
Those guys are way over the top. Wow.
But there's jokes about all the politicians. So they'll say, Chuck Schumer, the most dangerous place in Washington is between, Chuck Schumer and a camera. I mean, there's just stuff. They have jokes about all of them, and they know it. There's just a lot of egos up there. But you can see how it's reinforced when you go to D.C. and you see these guys, and they're being followed around by a bunch of young kids who are sort of listening to everything they say, and they're important, and they, maybe they start to believe it.
I mean, the bankers, they're so crazy. They're like, let's not give $10 billion to the starving kids in Africa. Let's give it to Ukraine so they can bomb Russia. They're crazy.
I've talked, though, to some serious economic people, and I listen to them, and it's not like they're evil. It's just, I don't know where they're coming from. I think they're like, I think they it's almost like they believe it, and I'm sort of baffled by it. Really, you have your plan, and we've got huge wealth disparity, and young people can't work, and you're going to destroy a whole generation, and that's fine, and it's like, yeah, but I mean, I don't know, it's very strange. Yeah. So I think who else pops out? Anyway, Donald Trump, a lot of people.
You know what? That was the next person I was going to ask.
Nice.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's sort of a guy who's, that's sort of a classic that will pop out when people talk about narcissism.
I don't think that's an act, though.
No, yeah, I'm pretty sure that
he's the real deal.
What about Chef Ramsay? He's a pissed off guy when he works, but off camera
You said Chef Ramsay? You mean Gordon Ramsay?
Whatever. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the mean chef.
He's mean? I thought he was good.
Have you ever seen him on that show?
He's teaching me all sorts of recipes, man. He's badass on YouTube. I don't know what you're talking about.
Sure you're not getting him mixed up with
Gordon Ramsay, the chef, dude. He's got that, English accent.
Yeah.
He's awesome, dude. He made the best salmon recipe.
Well,
crispy
sure
salmon.
They did. But
I cook that every week.
What's that have to do with anything?
I don't know, dude.
I'll have to look that recipe up. But he's on television.
Right? He deserves his narcissism.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, first of all, you don't. I mean, secondly, but a lot of these shows, I mean, you could edit. I mean, this conversation, you could take what I've said and edit it down to 2 minutes and get me fired from any job on earth. I mean, you just know that. I mean, these people get so edited and misquoted, and oh man.
I never sensed him as a narcissist, though. Okay.
Apparently, you've never watched that show.
No, I guess I never did, dude. But Google that, YouTube it, crispy salmon, Gordon Ramsay.
Well, I believe that there's probably is something on YouTube with him talking about a recipe, but it doesn't have anything.
It's so good.
Does he do a private show on YouTube?
Yeah, dude.
Is it pink salmon?
It's crispy salmon, and it is so good.
Okay.
It is delicious. I promise you.
Okay, take your word for it.
Never go back. Once you go crispy salmon, you never go back.
I'm sure Gordon Ramsay thinks it's the best.
The best ever made, ever.
Oh, man, it really is good. You actually I'm not going to go into it. Just look it up.
Good. I wasn't going to let you do it.
Oh, boy.
Well, what else could you teach us about narcissism? Do you know how to spot one? Like, how quick does it take you to spot a narcissist?
I've never fully tested myself to know if I'm as good as I think I am. So I don't know. I mean, in general, people can spot it. They can see it to some extent, but not perfectly. there's no. I find myself dumbfounded sometimes. I see people. I'm like, yeah, they seem a little cocky, but
right.
It turns out they're. I mean, look at this Bill Cosby stuff that's coming out right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true or not, but sometimes it's really hard to spot stuff. Sometimes it's it's more obvious. But I don't think I have any super spidey sense for narcissism.
Have you seen the women actually talk, like all the witnesses, the ladies who are accusing them? Have you actually listened to them in interviews and heard what they had to say? Because I did yesterday the first time, and I am convinced, dude. I that's kind of creepy to say, but they were convincing.
Well, it's a long number of people.
Yeah.
Look at Clinton too. I mean, you got that many people, you start to wonder.
And all of a sudden, it makes me wonder why now they're coming out.
Who did Bill Cosby piss off?
Right. But if you see the video, you'll understand why they took so long. And their stories are so similar. It's creepy.
Right.
And they seem genuine. I'm usually good at sensing if someone's lying or whatever. Like all the tells, I can spot a lot of tells, and I didn't spot. And all I saw was genuineness. A bunch of genuine females there, just seriously bummed out about it and freaked out about it, and it's a shame.
Yeah, I hate seeing heroes go down. I mean, it's sort of, it's sort of, I don't know. You just want somebody left.
Yeah.
And everybody my age remembers him. You know what I mean? You just want somebody to be a decent human being the whole way. Just kind of end and they go, look, we dug through all the dirt and there really wasn't that much there. I mean, he crashed a car when he was a teenager, and other than that, he was a pretty decent guy. So I just want that to happen.
You're right, dude. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right. Come on.
Who can we trust these days?
Right. I mean, I just want somebody who just was okay.
There's an ego for you. There's a huge ego for you. Wow.
Yeah, he's another that comes up in a lot of these things.
He's crazy.
Yeah. So, well, I just looked at the time.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we're getting close to 11.
I've been up for 48 hours now. I'm going on 48 hours, unfortunately.
Oh God!
See, that's nuts, Jeff.
Yeah, see, you're supposed to say that explains a lot.
Michael and I
that's
like
hard,
our
man.
Yeah, I'm very tired. I'm very, very tired, and I mean, I'm not young anymore. I'm 34 now.
You're getting there.
Yeah. Getting there all right.
Before we let you go, do you have any more any future projects that you're working on? Or?
Oh, we're studying geek culture, trying to figure some of that out. We're looking at selfies.
Did you say selfies?
Just selfies.
That's great.
Just doing some interesting stuff. I mean, nothing's come out yet, but that's sort of what we're trying to look more broadly at culture and also sort of see how the recession's affected people. Is narcissism sort of going down with the recession? Is it going up? Is it, those kind of questions. I just haven't quite got my mind wrapped around them yet. But that's.
I suspect selfies. You're going to find a lot there. When it comes to narcissism.
That's what we think, but.
Yeah,
that's what we're looking at. It's a very interesting phenomenon. No one would have predicted it 10 years ago. So stuff like that. I mean, just trying to figure out this culture and, anyway, kind of the story.
There's got to be a percent. Consider this: there has to be a percentage of people that want to take selfies, but they just think it's ridiculous, so they don't.
Yeah. Like I secretly want to, but I just can't do it.
That's a factor.
Yeah, it's kind of like dancing at a party. Kind of looks kind of fun, but I look like such a tool, and I just feel uncomfortable, and I'll just let the other people do it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I took one, and I just looked at myself. I was like, oh, this is horrible.
Yeah, this looks ridiculous.
I had to do one for a magazine, and I finally was like, what am I doing? I just handed my cell phone to the photographer. I'm like, you take a picture. I don't know if people do this all the time. God.
It is. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. It appears was, but all right, guys.
Well, good, man. Keep up the good work. We're
bedtime.
glad that we got to have you on.
Yeah, it was fun. I'm glad you're doing this.
Was.
Get some ideas out there.
It was seriously a blast. I had a lot of fun.
Good.
It was a blast. Thank you.
Good. All right. Well, thanks to all of you.
Conversation.
That was wonderful. All right.
All right. Take it easy.
You too. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, bye.